We'll introduce each of our witnesses now and then turn it to you for your comments. Our first witness is Dr. Mason Earles. He is an assistant professor at the University of California, Davis, where he leads a research lab and team focused on AI and agriculture. Dr. Earles is also a co-lead for the USDA-funded National AI Institute for Next Generation Food Systems. Prior to joining UC Davis, he worked at Apple as a data science engineer and recently founded an agriculture technology startup called Scout. Our next witness is Dr. Sanjeev Krishnan. Mr. Krishnan is the Chief Investment Officer and founding Managing Director at S2G Ventures. He has nearly 20 years of experience in sourcing and managing venture and capital equity investments, focusing on agriculture and food companies. Mr. Krishnan is a graduate of the London School of Economics and grew up in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. So that's a special reason why I'm glad that you're here. He enjoys spending time with his family and friends in their home city of Chicago, Illinois. Thank you so much for being here. I'm now going to turn to Senator Thune to make the next introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and let me just echo what was said earlier by the Ranking Member, Senator Boozma. Thank you to you and to him for working and facilitating an extension of the Farm Bill and dealing with the orphan programs. I'm pleased we're able to get that done, although I would say that it is no substitute for a multi-year authorization, and I hope we keep our heads down and try and get that accomplished. I do want to welcome Dr. José-Marie Griffiths to the panel today. She is president at Dakota State University. I've had the privilege of working with her for several years, and she has testified numerous times in front of the Senate Commerce Committee where she shared her expertise. And I'm grateful that she is willing to share that expertise today with the Senate Ag Committee. Dr. Griffiths has served in presidential appointments to the National Science Board, Commission on Libraries and Information Science, and she's recently been appointed to be a member of the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. Because of Dr. Griffiths' passion about expanding research and educational opportunities, Dakota State University is a leader in the nation in developing a high-quality skilled technology and cyber workforce. And DSU has played a critical part in ensuring that our farmers and ranchers are able to take part in the technological revolution. DSU, in partnership with South Dakota State University, launched a joint doctorate program on precision ag and cyber. This program brings an important focus to the cybersecurity threats the agricultural economy faces, and this is critically important as new technologies like artificial intelligence become more prevalent in the agriculture sector. It's important work. This hearing is important. There is a huge intersection between agriculture, which is our state's #1 industry, and technology, all of which can boost yields and incomes for agriculture and make us more competitive in the global marketplace. And so, Dr. Griffiths, thank you for your great work and welcome here today, and I look forward to hearing yours. And thank you to all the panelists for being here to share your expertise with this panel. Thanks.
Thank you. Senator Boozman will have the next introduction.
I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Jahmy Hindman, who's Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer at Deere Company, a position he's held since July of 2020. He is responsible for building Deere's tech stack, the company's intuitive end-to-end software, end-to-end equipment solution made up of hardware and devices, embedded software, connectivity, data platforms, and applications. It's so complicated I can't even read it. He leads the company's Intelligent Solutions Group, its global network of technology, innovations, centers, and the shared engineer function. Working in both the agriculture and turf and construction and forestry divisions, Dr. Hindman has more than 25 years of advanced technology, artificial intelligence, product engineering, and manufacturing experience. Most recently, he led the engineering team for Deere's flagship tractor product line. Dr. Hindman holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Iowa State University, as well as a master's and doctoral degrees in mechanical engineering from the University of Saskatchewan. His doctorate focused on the application of artificial neural networks in heavy equipment applications. He sits on the Industrial Advisory Council for Iowa State University's College of Engineering and leads the Technology Leadership and Strategy Initiative for the U.S. Council on Competitiveness. Dr. Hindman, thank you very much for being here.
Welcome. And for our last introduction, Senator Braun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to introduce fellow Hoosier Todd J. Janzen. He's an attorney and co-founder of Janzen Schroeder Agricultural Law, LLC, a law firm dedicated to serving the needs of farmers, ag technology providers, agribusinesses located in Indianapolis, Indiana. Todd also serves as the administrator for the Ag Data Transparent Project, a national effort to bring transparency to contracts between farmers and technology providers. Todd grew up on a grain farm in Kansas. He served as chairs of the American Bar Association's Agricultural Management Committee in the Indiana State Bar Association's Ag Law section. In addition to his regular law practice, Todd serves as general counsel to the Indiana Dairy Producers. Todd publishes a national recognized ag technology blog, the Janzen Ag Tech Blog. Thank you for being here and the rest of the witnesses.
Welcome to all of you. And now we'll turn to Dr. Earles first for 5 minutes of testimony, and we certainly welcome any other information you wish to give us for the record.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman Stabenow, Ranking Member Bozeman, and members of the committee. I'm happy to be here today to discuss the topic of leveraging technology and artificial intelligence for innovation in American agriculture. So my name's Mason Earles, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of California, Davis. I'm also a co-PI and agriculture production cluster lead at the USDA-funded National AI Institute for Next Generation Food Systems, and as mentioned earlier, a co-founder of an ag tech startup. So prior to joining UC Davis, I worked as a data science engineer at Apple, and before this, I worked on the basics of how plants work, fundamentals of plant physiology. So today, my lab at UC Davis sits at the crossroads of agriculture and artificial intelligence, or AI, and I lead a team of engineers, computer scientists, and biologists who are making AI-enabled sensing systems that aim to help agriculture producers manage more precisely, efficiently, and sustainably. However, I'm not here just to talk about what we do in my lab, but I want to discuss more broadly the topic of the rapidly growing trend in AI and technology in agriculture and food systems, and the role of research institutions in spurring such innovation. So we're sitting here today because of unprecedented advancements in hardware and software which have massively expanded the capacity of AI computer programs to learn from complex real-world data like what we see in agriculture and food systems. Before going any further, however, I would like to define AI using a relevant example. So put simply, an AI is a computer program that takes in one or more inputs, like an image or an audio recording or table of data, and outputs some prediction or physical action. Okay, what do I mean by that? So as an example, let's say we input into our computer program thousands of images taken from a camera mounted on a tractor weeding implement in a carrot field, and we want the AI to predict if an invasive weed, such as nightshade, is present in the image, which could, in response, trigger a precise herbicide spray application, for instance. We typically train these AI computer programs by showing them many examples of inputs with correct outputs. So in our carrot versus nightshade example, this means that a human first categorizes which images do or do not have nightshade, right? Literally clicking yes or no on a screen. The AI computer program then repeatedly tries to predict which images contain nightshade versus carrots and is penalized for incorrect predictions. Once training reaches a desired performance target, this AI can then be used to automate the detection and potentially spraying of nightshade based on input images without the need for human categorization. Right, this is just one of many, many possible examples of the growing number of current and potential applications of AI in agriculture and food systems. So at the AI Institute for Next Generation Food Systems, our team of more than 40 researchers across 6 national institutions aims to accelerate critical solutions to big challenges in the food supply chain, from crop breeding and farming to food processing and nutrition. Imagine if AI could bring together genomic and sensor data to uncover novel molecular patterns to enable plant breeders to discover more flavorful and nutritious strawberries. Now imagine those same strawberries growing in a field where hundreds of cheap paperclip-sized soil sensors are measuring nutrient and water stress and wirelessly sending data to a drone that flies overhead each day. After harvest, these strawberries are transported to a processing facility and rapidly that rapidly samples wash water to rule out the presence of E. coli, pathogens using AI-enabled microscopy. And then finally, a consumer could point their phone at a plate which uses AI to estimate the macro and micronutrients of the strawberries and every other ingredient they're about to eat. Critically, the socioeconomic and ethical risks of introducing AI tools across the food supply chain, such as data privacy and security, and potential effects on labor must be considered as well. And so our researchers and industry partners at the AI Institute for Next Generation Food Systems are investigating each of these topics, among many others. So we see ourselves as one of the world's leaders in research, development, and commercialization of such novel, importantly open-sourced AI-based food solutions in food and agriculture. So we do this through a three-pronged strategy of multidisciplinary science, industry engagement, and workforce development. Such a massive effort and innovation is made possible by more than $20 million in funding provided over 5 years by USDA's NIFA as part of the NSF's National AI Institutes. In fact, 4 additional national AI institutes focused on food and agriculture are funded by USDA NIFA, totaling more than 30 research institutions and industry partners across America. And these national AI institutes are working on programs that aim to relieve labor shortages via AI-driven robotic harvesters and tree crops, monitor the health and stress of livestock using AI-enabled sensors, and predict climate and crop risk by building AI-accelerated models that could eventually be used to precisely control irrigation and nutrient emitters. Each of these AI institutes is focused on tech transfer and meeting industry needs, with partners including dairy producers, soybean farmers, chemical and agricultural machinery producers, among others. Thinking to the future of our workforce, in 2021, more than 161,000 undergraduate and graduate computer science degrees were awarded in the US alone. While we don't have exact numbers, a very small fraction of these students end up working in agriculture and food sector. This needs to change. So building on these accomplishments and to keep America as a global leader in agriculture innovation, I strongly encourage the committee to continue and even expand funding for these national AI institutes, and among other funding sources provided through the USDA that focus on AI solutions for food and agriculture. I believe that this is how we will accelerate more research innovation and industry collaboration and create a wider funnel for motivating more computer science and engineering students to solve big challenges in the agricultural sector via AI and new technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we'll hear from Mr. Krishnan. Thank you, Mr. Krishnan, for coming and sharing your thoughts.
Chairwoman Stabenow, Ranking Member Bozeman, and members of the Senate Agriculture Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Sanjeev Krishnan. I'm a founding team member and Chief Investment Officer of S2G Ventures. S2G was founded in 2014 and is now one of the largest investment firms focused on sustainable food and agriculture solutions and technologies. Today, we manage $2 billion of capital, and our portfolio includes investments in more than 90 companies. We're based in the Midwest and deploy capital that creates jobs and returns in the heartland. At S2G, I help lead a team of more than 40 sector experts and investors, focused on identifying and making investments in technologies and entrepreneurs. Nearly all 90 portfolio companies are either headquartered or maintain operations in the United States. Across our portfolio, we have companies that either operate, manufacture, or distribute in every state represented by members of the Senate Agriculture Committee. We don't just write checks. We ask what problems needs to be solved and seek to understand how individuals experience it. What does the consumer in Iowa see in terms of price and quality? What is a farmer in Michigan or a rancher in Colorado experiencing? How are communities in Mississippi impacted? We explore those leverage points and make targeted investments across the ecosystem. In practice, this might look like identifying a durable consumer trend. We might consider investing in new consumer products to meet this trend. Companies using machine learning to develop more flavorful and nutrient-dense ingredients through improved seed genetics. What farmers might need to plant this hypothetical crop. The infrastructure needed to take crops from farm field to finished goods. Less intensive ways to nourish the crop. Tools that enable farmers to measure and profit from those environmental benefits, and fintech solutions that de-risk the transition to a new crop. My comments today will draw from the systems perspective, focusing on 4 themes. 1, the journey of the American farmer is a remarkable story of embracing innovation and transformation. Technology and artificial intelligence build on this tradition. These technologies and their applications and implications are just beginning to emerge, but they offer a unique toolkit to rapidly accelerate breakthrough solutions and significant per acre value generation. Today, Farmers are drowning in data and not in solutions. We now have aggregated data points from sensors, machinery, and many other sources. Improving that data's quality and utilizing the data to drive better, faster, and more efficient and precise ag tech solutions. These solutions will be able to automatically adapt and moderate the impacts of extreme weather, volatile commodity prices, and more. This also represents a new frontier of deriving value from on-farm data. Third, AI can help enhance the foundation of U.S. agriculture, trust, and community. This sounds counterintuitive, but ag technology, data, analytics, and AI have an important role to play in strengthening human relationships. For example, AI offers nearly instant power to analyze and identify patterns across massive amounts of historical research and on-farm data. Combined with their real-world experience, AI can enable independent agronomists or certified crop advisors to offer faster, more precise advice and actionable insights to farmers. AI can help make existing ag technologies better and more effective and help weed out ineffective approaches. This enables farmers to focus on their resources and time on options that work best for the conditions on their operations. 4, public policy plays a critical role in developing and scaling critical ag tech solutions. Federal loan guarantees and other financing opportunities offer security to the developers of nascent technology that once at scale offer a public good in the form of improved sustainability or profitability. Financial instruments will continue to be an important area for private-public partnership and innovation. Improving data quality and sharing will be critical. The public and private sector should work together to avoid duplicative work and focus limited resources on filling data gaps. And it'll be critical to protect privacy, support the farmer, and build tools that account for the full diversity of the food and agriculture system. Thank you again to the committee for your leadership in convening today's hearing. I look forward to responding to your questions.
Thank you very much. And now we'll hear from Dr. Griffiths. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairwoman Stabenow and Ranking Member Bozeman and members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to testify today. I'm José-Marie Griffiths, President of Dakota State University, located in Madison, South Dakota. At our institution, we're focused on training the next generation of professionals in emerging technology fields such as AI, cybersecurity, and quantum computing. Dakota State University is one of only 10 universities nationwide to hold all 3 Center of Academic Excellence in Cybersecurity designations from the National Security Agency and Department of Homeland Security. And we have innovative R&D campus facilities and public-private partnership models that empower students to immediately enter the cyber workforce upon graduation. One example is the Dakota State University Applied Research Corporation, which operates and manages the Dakota State University Applied Research Lab. Additionally, we're partnering with South Dakota State University, the state's leading agricultural institution, on collaborative research through a precision cyber ag partnership, where South Dakota State University brings the data generated by precision technologies, and we leverage our cyber and AI expertise. Agriculture has evolved tremendously over the past 100 years. Innovative technology is now being leveraged to drive farming equipment, predict crop health, optimize yields, and monitor the entire produce supply chain from seed to stomach. The integration of technology and AI stands to shape the future of agriculture with both tremendous benefits and risks. Amidst the modern cyber threat landscape, further research is needed to ensure AI can reach its full potential. As the committee considers how to deploy AI across agriculture, Dakota State University offers the following recommendations. First, support the increased adoption of AI and its transformative potential in the U.S. agriculture sector. When embedded in connected systems, AI technologies enable the widespread collection of vast amounts of data from crops and livestock through satellites, drones, sensors, and robots. Analysis of these data can lower costs and improve yields and production. Second, support stronger cybersecurity protections to safeguard the critical infrastructure of the U.S. agriculture industry. Embedding AI into internet-connected farming machinery, vehicles, and devices does inherently make systems more vulnerable to cyber attacks, but there are solutions to protect this critical infrastructure powering our national food supply. Third, support the expansion of agricultural research focused on AI to help increase the sustainability of the agricultural industry. This research can lead to the creation of new technologies and improved policies that will enhance agricultural productivity and resilience. Fourth, intellectual property confidentiality risk is another key consideration. As AI applications are rapidly developed and deployed, IP confidentiality is essential to protect and prioritize the development of leading innovations in the field. Finally, the fifth recommendation is for a heightened concern for cyber and national security that involves the acquisition of land by unfriendly nations, especially in sensitive areas or close proximity to critical infrastructure and agricultural areas. It's crucial to secure our land for the sake of national security. The United States has a critical opportunity to advance the use of AI to further innovate the agriculture sector while also helping address very real cyber risks and challenges associated with a growing attack surface. There are crucial steps that academia, in partnership with industry and federal agencies, can take to ensure the safe, responsible, and effective use of AI. The agriculture industry has been automating and innovating for decades. While the deployment of AI across agriculture is a transformative shift, it's nothing we can't be prepared for. And I'd like to recognize our leaders in South Dakota, including Senator Thune, Senator Rounds, Representative Johnson, and Governor Noem for their continued leadership in this area. Dakota State University looks forward to continued collaboration with the committee to develop policies to advance the safe, responsible, and effective deployment of AI across agriculture. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hindman, welcome.
Good morning. On behalf of Deere's 80,000 employees worldwide, I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to address you here today. John Deere is dedicated to assisting customers in meeting the increasing global need for food, fuel, shelter, and clothing. We tackle challenges like limited land, water, and rural labor by leveraging technology, including artificial intelligence, to empower growers to achieve higher productivity with fewer resources. This approach allows farmers to accomplish more with less, while improving both their economic and environmental sustainability. Deere currently connects over 650,000 machines around the world using terrestrial cellular networks. This allows data generated during farming tasks like planting and harvesting to be sent to the cloud for analysis. The insights gained from this analysis help optimize a farmer's current tasks, such as improving their logistics, and contribute to enhancing future farming seasons. A common concern regarding farmers' data is ownership, and we are unequivocal on this matter. John Deere customers retain control over their data, including how it is collected, stored, processed, and shared. That said, we also believe that the valuable insights that can be derived from this information will play a crucial role in meeting our industry's collective objective of sustaining a growing global population. Farmers use these same connections to deliver data-driven instructions back to their machines, such as prescriptions for applying different rates of fertilizer to different parts of a field, navigation information used to auto-steer machines, and input specifications like seed and fertilizer. These network services are offered to farmers through partnerships with third-party companies, allowing farmers to have greater flexibility in choosing the services based on their own preferences and needs. However, it's vitally important to address connectivity challenges in rural areas, including in-field connectivity, to fully unlock the benefit of technology for farmers. In addition to connecting our products, we have significantly increased the computing capability embedded within those products. This allows for more advanced control and enables a unique plant-level management capability, where each plant can be nurtured to achieve its optimal potential. Our self-propelled sprayers, for example, feature 9 graphical processing units and 36 cameras. These cameras can scan a distance of 120 feet at a speed of 12 miles per hour. Through artificial intelligence, they analyze images to identify weed pixels, allowing precise herbicide application only where necessary. This see and spray technology is not some futuristic vision. It's already in the field. In 2023, U.S. farmers achieved an impressive 61% reduction in contact herbicide usage across 275,000 acres of corn, soy, and cotton, saving approximately 2 million gallons of herbicide. But reducing herbicide use is just the start of AI's potential in agriculture. For instance, we have integrated the same graphical processing units with stereo cameras in our autonomous tillage solution. This application of artificial intelligence allows us to identify obstacles in the fields, prompting the fully autonomous tractor and tillage tool to pause and await further instructions from the farmer who may be engaged in other, higher value tasks. This solution directly addresses labor scarcity, especially during critical agricultural periods such as harvest and planting. In the past 2 growing seasons, this AI technology facilitated autonomous operations on approximately 45,000 acres of corn and soy in North America. As rural to urban migration continues, AI-powered solutions like this one become even more essential to U.S. farm productivity. Additionally, we leverage the power of AI to train models using our technical assistance data. This enables us to promptly address customer or dealer machine issues, ensuring swift problem resolution. AI allows us to efficiently identify similar issues across the machine population and expedite solutions for affected customers. As a result, the impact duration during crucial agronomic timing windows is significantly reduced. The future of U.S. agriculture is being built today with tools that enable data-driven decision-making by farmers. Artificial intelligence plays a crucial role in unlocking the value of that data and turning it into actionable insights in the field. But we need your help. U.S. farmers would benefit greatly from incentives to help them acquire the precision technology needed to do their jobs more efficiently and sustainably. As you deliberate the upcoming Farm Bill, I urge you to consider such proposals as the Precise Act and the Precision Ag Loan Act that would expand eligibility for USDA conservation and loan programs to include the adoption of precision technology. Further, bills like the Last Acre Act are essential for farmers to fully leverage the benefits of AI and precision technologies. Putting these technologies in the hands of America's farmers not only improves productivity and profitability for growers, but also enables them to produce enough food, fuel, shelter, and clothing to sustain the growing world population. And that benefits us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we ask Mr. Janzen. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairwoman Stabenow, Ranking Member Bozeman, and members of the committee. My name is Todd Janzen. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Janzen, Schroeder Agricultural Law, LLC, based in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we serve the needs of America's farmers, agribusinesses, and also ag tech providers. I'm also here today because I grew up on a farm in south central Kansas, and so I have agriculture at my roots. I'd like to make 3 points here today about agricultural technology, the digitalization of farming, and artificial intelligence. First, there are many ways that farmers are already interfacing with digital technologies today. We have everything from farm management information systems, which provide a suite of services to farmers in exchange for a collection of data and allow farmers to analyze their decisions and make informed decisions based upon all that data. On the other end of the spectrum, we have remote sensors and items that are very specific about performing one task. But these are also connected to the internet and often referred to as Internet of Things devices. And they allow farmers to remotely monitor what's going on the farm. And then, of course, there's everything in between, from aerial imagery, satellite imagery, connected machines, and even connected livestock on the farm. All of these tools share one common denominator, which is that they all collect a lot of data from farmers. And farmers are a sensitive group when it comes to talking about sharing their data, and they have a good reason to be so. So secondly, I want to talk about what are some of the reasons that farmers are reluctant to share data with companies that want to offer these digital tools. When farmers are polled, it's almost always the same 3 things bubble to the surface. And I'd say the first is a lack of trust in a lot of these platforms. Farmers just don't know what happens after the data moves to these cloud-based platforms. Secondly, privacy concerns. Obviously, this is proprietary data for a lot of farmers, and so it is their livelihood, and so they want to know that it's protected. And third, from my standpoint, what I also see is a lot of overly complex technical agreements that make it difficult for farmers to understand exactly what it is they're giving up as far as the data. Much of my work has been done to try and alleviate these concerns in the technology space as a number of companies want to move into the agricultural area. And I've done this through a project called the Ag Data Transparent Organization. And what Ag Data Transparent does is certify companies that work to show that they are transparent with how they are collecting and using and storing farmers' data. And to date, this Ag Data Transparent Organization has certified over 40 companies And there are still many more that need to be certified, and there's much work to do. I'd like to also talk just a couple minutes about artificial intelligence and how that is arriving on the farm. I like to think of it in different buckets. So on one end, we have narrow AI, or narrow artificial intelligence, which takes a number of data points to make a single informed decision about something. Like, is this a weed or is this a valuable crop? On the other end of the spectrum, we have the general AI, which takes a lot of data from different sources and is focused on trying to mimic human behavior. And so an example might be analyzing a whole catalog of different seeds that are available and then applying those to a specific farmer's fields for a specific area based upon the weather predictions for that year to suggest this is the ideal crop to plant for you. With all of these, though, of course, there's more data collection, and so that remains a concern for protection. Farmers should know how their data is going to be used. They should know when they sign up for AI platforms, if it's going to be used to train these platforms and what that means for them. Finally, I'd like to offer just 3 policy considerations based upon my work as an attorney in this sector. First, I think that any policy should focus on leveling the playing field and not stifling innovation, because this is such an innovative sector. Second, when I think trust is lacking, then transparency becomes even more important. And so if anyone is collecting data and they don't have that farmer trust, they have to be extremely transparent with how they're using it. And finally, any platform that uses agricultural data should try to return an equal or greater value of that data back to the farmer in the resulting product. And I would say to you that all 3 of these recommendations are true, whether it is private industry collecting data or whether or not it is the government collecting data for use in some farm program. So thank you very much. I look forward to the questions today.
Well, thank you to all of you for your thoughtful testimony and raising, I think, really important issues. Let me start with Dr. Earles. The world was a very different place 5 years ago when we wrote the last Farm Bill, and from your position now, through your leadership, when you see how, firsthand, how quickly everything is changing, how is our understanding of artificial intelligence in the agriculture sector different than 5 years ago? Where are we going specifically? Could you talk more specifically about what we need to be paying attention to and doing?
Sure, yes, that's a great question. So when I think of what's changed in the last 5 years, I think the biggest change has been for actually software developers. And what I mean by that, this has upstream consequences for everybody that's going to consume the products from AI. But what that means is it's a lot faster to go from nothing to product today than it was 5 years ago. And I'm talking about, so for example, today it may only take a day to build an AI model that counts destructive versus beneficial moths on a piece of paper from images, right? Whereas 5 years ago, a smaller group of people, of skilled individuals, software developers, would have taken them much longer to do this. So what that ends up meaning is that we get more products to market faster for agricultural AI startups and industry. So what hasn't changed, though, I think, is that AI models still require data and they require human supervision. And what I mean by that is, I mentioned earlier, someone has to go in and punch in a computer what they see, and that person is an expert, right? An agricultural expert, and those are still in high demand but low supply. So being able to connect those agricultural experts to the software development process is something that is changing quickly, but still needs to change faster. In the next 5 years, I think you'd asked what I see going into the next 5 years as well. I think even in the last week or 2 weeks, we've seen a huge change in how AI and humans communicate. So I'm going to give a quick example of this and what I did last night. So I sat down and I took my phone out, opened up an app, and I said, you mentioned you generated your comments through AI. I asked it, I said, I'm a soybean farmer outside of Des Moines, Iowa. I have some small worm that's infesting my crop. I'm near a river. What do you think it is? And it came back with 5 different possible responses within 3 seconds. And it said, I might be able to help you figure this out if you show me an image. So first, I did this with my voice. I said this to the AI. The AI responded with its voice and text. It then gave me an option to show it an image. This is just like talking to a person, right? And so I show it an image of what I know is to be this certain type of worm, and it correctly identifies this type of worm. So to me, this is how we communicate with AIs is changing rapidly, and they have this soon-to-be role, if not already role, of being AI advisors. So I think this is something we need to think a lot about is what are the recommendations that they are making, and how are we training those models such that they're giving reliable, robust recommendations, and how are we regulating what's coming out of the models, which may end up being easier than thinking of how farm advisors are actually doing, but we also need to take that into consideration.
Well, thank you very much. And Mr. Krishnan, when we look at these innovations, of course, none of them matter if they're just in the lab. They have to be out in the hands of farmers. And to do that, we'll need a partnership between researchers and the private sector with a willing and able workforce also. So could you speak to what you hear from others in the private sector about their reluctance to invest in agricultural technology, and how can we use these advances to bring new high-paying jobs to our states?
Thank you for your question. I think so. Given the need to feed a population of 10 billion globally and America's leadership, there's increased interest from the venture capital community in this space. 10 years ago, it was less than $1 billion. At its peak, we hit $12 billion. Year to date, venture capital has invested close to $6 billion in the sector. I will say, though, a lot of venture capital investors recognize this takes longer. This is more tough tech than traditional tech. So the sales cycle and product cycle takes longer. There's more risk aversion across the field. And so that's why you've seen less than 3% of venture capital dedicated to ag tech. We think we need to improve that. And there's a huge amount of opportunity for the public sector and private sector to be in partnership to accelerate this adoption cycle and get more venture capital into the sector.
Thank you very much. Senator Bozeman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we do appreciate you all being here. It's interesting, the Ag Committee really is, for almost everything that we deal with, is very bipartisan. And the minority selects witnesses, the majority selects witnesses, but all of you all, again, could be witnesses for any of us. Like I say, you're just trying to figure out answers, trying to come up with solutions that in this very interesting field that has the promise of really making a huge difference to humanity in so many different ways. So thank you all for what you're doing, what you're working on. Dr. Hindman, in your testimony, you state John Deere customers retain control over their data, including how it is collected, stored, processed, and shared. Can you talk a little more about how this works in practice, including the process for producers who may wish to make changes in the way their data is being handled?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. So today, in our digital application, John Deere Operations Center, customers have, that's where they can control, modify, change the information that they have within, that's reflecting their particular farm operation. They get the opportunity to invite people within their organization to participate in that application and define the access rights for those people. That might be other labor on the farm. It might be an agronomist that they're working with. It might be a third company that potentially is working with them on different aspects of their operation. But they get to determine what that information is, where it goes, and what it's used for. And they can change that dynamically. They can change it on their mobile phone if they want. They can change it in the desktop application. They can do that at any point in time. They also have the ability, if they so choose, to delete that information if they want to remove the record. Generally, that's a pretty unlikely thing in our experience, but they have the capability and the opportunity to do that if they choose.
Very good. Dr. Griffiths, what are the cybersecurity risks associated with integrating more technologies like AI into the agricultural sector? Why is it important to research and explore the transformative potential of AI in this area?
Thank you for the question. Well, the risks are the same kinds of risks that you get with any AI application. In artificial intelligence is, first of all, it's basically a set of algorithms or computer programs, and it's data, whether it's test data or live data, and you have the opportunity to attack either, and hackers will and can attack either for whatever reasons they wish to do it. So in the agricultural sector, we really need to start protecting the data, and that's part of the kinds of research that we're engaged in with industry and with South Dakota State University. For example, we've been looking at how data go from satellite to the cloud. We all put our data in the cloud these days. And how can we ensure data confidentiality and integrity as the data move from one place to another, because it's easy to attack those data. And so we look at developing a secure, effective method both for encrypting the data and then doing that at speed and cost without involving any delay in the processing of the data, which, as you've just heard, is sort of operates on sort of milliseconds in time. It's very, very important for the data to get to the person who's making ultimate decisions from the AI. So I think as AI evolves, we're seeing more and more technology being incorporated into the agricultural sector, and that increases what we call the threat landscape. And so there are more and more points at which you can begin to attack the system. The more points you have, that you're only as strong as the weakest link, as it were. So I really think I'll give you another example. When just before Russia invaded Ukraine, we saw pictures of tractors stuck in fields, unable to move because the systems had been attacked. And that created an impetus for us to do some work on trying to protect farm vehicles from similar kinds of attack that could occur from unfriendly states. So we've looked at enhancing the security of these farming vehicles, developing artificial intelligence enhanced, what we call intrusion detection systems, people who are trying to get into the system to do damage. And these systems are designed to strengthen the cybersecurity of agricultural machinery. So we're looking at this not just for today's technology, but we're looking 5 years out at the technology that will be in the fields to try and ensure that they're robust and cyber protected from the beginning. And I think it's important to remember that this entire supply chain, this entire food and security and clothing supply chain, it needs to be addressed at every single point in the scale. So I often say, well, we talk a lot about protecting the data from sensors and from tractors and other vehicles, but we also have to protect the seeds and the treatment of seeds and how the fungicides and herbicides are being measured to be put on seed for seed production, because we actually could see a significant latent effect on the actual development or non-development of crops going on in the future. So I hate to be the negative person here. I'm very excited about what artificial intelligence can do in the agricultural sector, but I feel like the child in The Sixth Sense. I see cyber threats everywhere, and when I see a vulnerability, I think we have to find a way to attack it. So I just ask that you be fully aware that you can't separate any new technology these days from cybersecurity. The two have to go together. And as technology evolves and as artificial intelligence evolves, it's multiple things. It's not a single thing. We have to evolve the cybersecurity that goes with it.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much to both of you. I'm excited about the work that's going on. This summer, I toured a number of farms in Minnesota that were making impressive use of precision agriculture. On one of the farms, the sprayer had been configured to only spray on plants that it correctly identified as weeds. I know you're seeing this all over in our agriculture communities. We know it helps reduce input costs, better for conservation. That's why Senator Fisher and I are joining have introduced a Precision Agriculture Loan Act, and I know, Dr. Hindman, you mentioned the Precision Ag Bill in your testimony, which I appreciate. I guess I'd start with you, Mr. Krishnan. In your testimony, you discussed the important role that federal financing opportunities can have in helping scale these kinds of technologies. Could you talk a little more about that?
I think as agriculture goes from data poor to data rich, everyone's talking about precision agriculture, so drones, satellites, remote sensing, et cetera. We also see a more data-driven food and ag system to offer new risk management and lending solutions, particularly not only to adopt and de-risk the scaling of new technologies, but also create longer-term decision-making focused on soil health and sustainability. So I think it's a really important area for public policy to get involved in, to give farmers not just the tools, but the financing to increase yield per acre and profit per acre.
Exactly. I mean, Senator Thune and I lead a different bill that would require the USDA to identify and collect and analyze the data. And so what you're saying is that it's helpful to have both the data as well as the financing.
I think both are really important and critical.
Okay. Dr. Earles, in your testimony, you talked about the work you are leading at UC Davis to develop AI-enabled sensing systems that help producers manage their operations more precisely. Can you talk about how that can help with costs in the long term? It's investment in the short term. Please, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of on the farm, we think of the breakdowns in terms of cost. I think more of specialty crops because I'm coming from California, but I think this applies across many different types of crops, where we have all of these inputs that farmers are facing. They're spread across a number of different activities, right? So AI has the potential to hit various activities, such as whether it be fertilization, pest management, yield, forecasting and prediction, and other types of irrigation, so on. I think these are cost-saving measures that may be somewhere between 5 to 15% on average in any given farmer's operation. So one of the challenges in going from an idea to a product in agriculture for cost savings is finding those real value propositions, I think, in precision agriculture. And so what we've been working on is really identifying what those are. And so that really depends on what crop type we're looking at. And I think this is a big challenge for AI going forward, is finding each one of those crop types pivot points that they're willing to bring AI into adoption.
You can't really do most of this without broadband, and as we know, that is a big piece of this, to get broadband to every corner of our country. We made sure that the bipartisan infrastructure law that many of us at this table supported included a significant investment in broadband infrastructure. I actually led that bill before it got included in the bipartisan infrastructure law. Dr. Griffiths, can you talk about the importance of broadband to making AI-enabled ag technologies work for farmers? And how can we do more to solve the workforce shortage, which is another issue that's plaguing us in rural?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yes, I'll start with the broadband question. Given the fact that we are able to potentially generate huge amounts of data, we have to send the data somewhere, and we have to do it in a timely manner. And in order to do that, we need the broadband infrastructure to become, ubiquitous across the entire country, but especially in the farmlands and in the middle of the United States, where it's not necessarily uniformly available at this time. That's been something actually that I've testified on before, and here it is again. We can't ignore that as an enabling infrastructure for the use of many of these additional and new and emerging technologies. Even in South Dakota, we're doing pretty well on broadband infrastructure on one side of the state, and the other side not so good. I mean, and then we have badlands and topologies where it's very, very difficult to try and ensure that equal access to broadband technologies. But we're working on it, and we'll continue to do so. The workforce issue is another issue that's plaguing us because We really do not have sufficient numbers of people who are fully aware of the capabilities of artificial intelligence. I classify the workforce needs into 3 areas. We have the need for additional experts who are actually going to help develop these AI-related applications to agriculture and to other sectors. And we are in relatively short supply of those people. We need to encourage more people to go into STEM, and I think that particular issue won't be solved with domestic personnel alone. We're going to have to look at legal immigration. The second area, though, we're going to have more people engaged in what we call the users. So we're going to have 2 kinds of users of AI technologies. They're the producers of products and services who are using AI technologies to create their offerings. And then we also have the end users of those products and services. So you could say the individual farmers or ranchers who actually need to use those products and services. And then we ultimately have the general public. What should the general public know about artificial intelligence? So I think the key here is, 1, we do need more people moving into these fields. And secondly, we need to do more to educate the users and end users of the capabilities and the risks associated with these technologies, so that we can develop artificial intelligence applications responsibly that actually do what we want them to do, that carry the kinds of values the United States wishes to spread and continue to spread around the world, and minimize the risk that's associated with these technologies, so that we can optimize the use.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Ernst.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thanks to our witnesses for being here today as well, and thank you, Senator Boozman, for mentioning Steph Carlson. We will miss Stephanie as she returns back to Iowa to be closer to her Iowa family, friends, and of course, her great Iowa Army National Guard unit as well. So we really appreciate Steph and the great contributions that she has made to the committee and to my office. So thanks, Steph. So when we passed the Farm Bill of 2018, we thought it was a very significant accomplishment, but here we are today, 5 years later, and we still have no Farm Bill. It actually expired on September 30th. So I am encouraged to see that we do have a 1-year extension agreed to, contingent on the continuing resolution being passed. The lack of urgency and progress on this once every 5-year piece of legislation has been a real disservice to rural America. And I hope that we can see more farm in the Farm Bill as we move forward, and that we can get it done early this next year. We really need to work hard for our farmers and ranchers. I always make this point. Many of you have heard it before, but I believe that food security is national security. So we need to continue on and make sure that we get this over the finish line. The topic on hand today, it really does have so much potential for the future of ag, whether it's identifying that specific type of insect, just as was pointed out, thank you for that example, or whether it is monitoring animal behavior in a hog barn. AI has the ability to provide our farmers with new tools to help them navigate through very difficult decisions. So I am very proud to say that Iowa has been leading when it comes to AI, and my alma mater, Iowa State University, is home to the AI Institute for Resilient Agriculture. By partnering with Iowa farmers and companies like John Deere, and thank you very much, Dr. Hindman, for being here today, I am excited to see the future of agriculture. Together, they're focused on technology that makes ag smarter, more profitable, and more sustainable to better meet the demands of our future generations. So thank you for engaging. So Dr. Hindman, I'll start with you. And as you mentioned in your testimony, the utilization of AI in ag requires a significant amount of user data, which our Iowa farmers are collecting when they plant, spray, fertilize, or harvest their crops. And my brother-in-law uses this technology as well. It's pretty exciting to hear him talk about the opportunities there. So how do you ensure that the information and the privacy which is something even my father, he has a good dose of Iowa farmer skepticism. How do you ensure that all of that privacy is protected for those farmers when they are utilizing your particular technology?
Thank you, Senator. It's a great question. I think first, I'll go back to they control who accesses their data within their account within the operations center. But before we even get to that stage, we take this very seriously within Deere, and we start with the principle of security by design. So making sure that as we're developing software, we're doing it with a seriousness about the security aspects of that software first and foremost, making sure that it's secure by design. That's sort of the bedrock of how we do software development, whether it's digital or embedded. Even with that, we still, no doubt, create opportunities for threat actors, given the complicated threat surfaces that are involved, to infiltrate that data. And so we then look towards external partners to help us do things like penetration testing the systems to make sure that they are resilient to external people trying to get into those systems. We partner with white hat hackers. HackerOne would be an example where we do a bug bounty program. We pay for ethical hackers to try to hack into our systems and expose vulnerabilities before they become public so that we can remedy those and keep that data intact.
That is, no, that's really good to know, and that will help some of these older generations of farmers understand the new technology is safe to use and their data is safe. But once you've captured all of that data, then how as John Deere do you turn around and use that data to help our farmers?
Yeah, it's used in a variety of ways for growers, from ways for us to look at how to improve the next product. Is the current product performing to the expectations of the customer or not? If not, what can we do to move the needle to make it perform better? We also utilize it for things like predicting when failures might occur in the equipment so that we can provide proactive service parts, proactive support for those failures, especially in those critical timing windows of planting and harvesting when every minute matters. Machine downtime is a problem, and so we work to make sure that we can try to position both customers and dealers in the best position possible to be able to address those disruptions.
That is really great. And the military has actually been using predictive maintenance and models for a very long time, which does save the federal government a lot of money. And in this case, utilizing this technology on our farms may save our farmers a significant amount of money and downtime as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Senator Welch.
Thank you very much. Thank the witnesses, and I do want to thank Senator Stabenow, Senator Bozeman for the one-year extension. But time's a wasting, and we got a sketchy situation over there on the other side of the building, so we better get to work pretty quick to get that 5-year farm bill passed. There's a lot of opportunity with AI. I'll start with you. But a real concern I have is for the viability of our smaller producers. I mean, we've got smaller farmers in Vermont. And a lot of times something will come up that has it's an opportunity for bigger ag where you can spread the cost over time. But for a lot of smaller producers, there's a lot of skepticism about whether they can get a return on investment. And I saw that there was a McKinsey study talking about North American farmers. 52% say the high cost and 40% cite the returns as the biggest challenges to adopting any farm system management opportunities. And a lot of our farmers have a lot more confidence in a fellow farmer or some of the folks from Extension, people that they've worked with over the years, and they have confidence, understand the dynamics. And this is going to get to a point you're making about the profitability over yield. But the big question I have about AI is with the entry cost, how can we do things that are going to help the smaller farmers get the benefit of it when they're just not going to be able to take that risk about the high upfront cost? Can you address that, Dr. Earles?
Absolutely. So I think there are two buckets that I would put what AI might help farmers do. One is decision support. So this has typically been the role for small farmers of extension types of agents. They rely very heavily on extension oftentimes for various sorts of advice, right? And then the other one is mechanization and automation, which I think those two can often come with very different costs associated with them. So I think in terms of AI and their impact on those two areas, on the extension side, I mentioned this idea of there aren't enough extension agents out there right now because really they are experts in 100 different things.
Let me
right?
put a little
Yeah,
wrinkle on it too, because in addition to that, the smaller farmers a lot of times will be wanting to do this focus on profitability and value added. And if the data that goes into the AI algorithm is essentially generated by the larger operations, how is that going to make it more difficult for the smaller farms that have a different business model in effect to be able to take benefit of AI? How do we integrate that data into the systems?
Yep. I think there's an opportunity for using things people already have, like their phones. And people are taking advantage of this because our phones are loaded with many different types of sensors. You know, we may not realize it, but there's probably 15 different types of sensors on there, from cameras through accelerometers, et cetera. So I think there is an opportunity for smaller farmers, and people are leveraging this opportunity to develop products around phones and things that
Let me
exist.
talk to you. Thank you.
Yeah,
This is helpful. I'll ask you, Mr. Krishnan. I know your work, you focus on profitability per acre to better incentivize climate-friendly practices. That's a big deal for our farmers. They're trying to do things that regenerate the soil. They are trying to do things that reduce the cost of a lot of these inputs so that their yield, so their profitability is, at the end of the day, obviously what's important. So talk to me about AI and how our farmers can focus on profitability as opposed to anything else, really.
Yeah, I think what AI and better sensing allows you to do is focus on precision agriculture, so improve the resource efficiency of water, pesticide, fertilizer management, and labor productivity. This should increase resource efficiency and profit per acre. I think the second thing that AI will allow us to do is sort of understand agriculture and the farm as a soil, microbes, fungi, bacteria, and instead of focusing on, I think there's a real opportunity to focus on soil organic matter. This is a measurement of all that life.
And the better the soil health, the higher the yield, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you want to add something, Dr. Griffiths?
Yeah, if I may, we just got the Extension Service at South Dakota State University just received a significant grant for soil conservancy in the state to look at areas of soil that in fields that are not very productive right now and replanting natural grasses that go down sometimes 20 feet down and with roots down 20 feet to rejuvenate and renutrient the soil so that it will be available for future use. So the idea of farming on the one hand and conservancy on the other, it's a balancing act. Right. And AI is going to help with that balancing act, saying where and when you should start conserving the soil.
Well, I hope it's affordable for our smaller farmers. Thank you all very much. Madam Chair, thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much. Senator Braun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I got to the Senate, I ran a company that was a distribution and logistics company, very kind of mundane, until we discovered technology. Once it was kind of beaten into my head in terms of being way too expensive for the benefits. Older of my two sons that now run the company with one of their sisters, I became a believer in it. And the benefits of it, amazing. How it gets, in our case, the train to show up in time, figuratively speaking, how much it costs, but the benefits have always been there. So anymore, I don't argue. I just say how much, and we do it. Of course, it's not my decision anymore. We still, though, today in touching base, have to fend off from across the world people trying to take your technology and for no real good reason, disrupt it, ruin it, ransom it, all that. I want to use that as kind of what we deal with before we heard much about AI. So I'd like to ask Mr. Krishnan and Dr. Hindman, your opinion, what the main worries would be when we take something as wholesome as agriculture and to see what we want to do with it. What would you see as being the biggest risks in your mind of how we apply AI to agriculture and not to have a maleficent end result in the process of doing it? We'll start over here.
It's a great question. I think AI is just like any other technology or toolkit. It has pros and cons. It can definitely increase productivity, as you saw in your business, but also increase disparity between small producers or large producers, or people with access to those high-value algorithms and people that don't, people that have high sensor penetration and people that don't on farm. And so I think data has become this raw material for these algorithms to make them more valuable, more productive, and more profitable. And so I think a lot of what we've talked about today around data privacy, data ownership, cyber are very critical. I think the biggest thing, whether it's in AI or in ag tech, it's really trust and transparency, I think, are very important. And a lot of these are in the details and nuances. So I'd really encourage maybe an expert working group to really tackle the issues around data ownership, data privacy, and data protection.
Thank you, Mr. Hindman.
Yeah, I think it's relatively easy to get a machine learning model to be 80% accurate. It's much harder to get it to be 99, 95% accurate. And that the difference between those two is the difference in data. It's how much data you have, the quality of that data that's used to train the model. And so data is the currency of artificial intelligence. It is what powers it. It's what makes it go. So for an example, in the See and Spray application that we produce, where we're discriminating between weeds and healthy crops and spraying only the weeds, we created a data set that is an image catalog, effectively, of millions of images of weeds at all different growth stages and different light conditions across corn, soy, cotton, across southern part of the U.S. to the northern part of the U.S. So this data set is very, very valuable, right? It is what gives us the ability to discriminate a weed in the machine learning model across the geography of the United States in those 3 crop production systems. And if you think about the value of that data, one of the things that keeps me awake at night is the threat actors that you mentioned having access to it so that they can go create something very, very similar without putting the effort into collecting the information that was necessary to produce it.
Thank you. And Mr. Janzen, since you deal with the farmers in your practice and the industry itself, especially from the perspective of farmers, they need every tool they can get to nurse that extra $1 per acre out of a tough business. We talked about that a little bit earlier. What are they saying that they're looking forward to out of it? And what risks are they talking about that might be associated with it?
Yes, thank you, Senator Braun. I would say that what they really want to see is a return on investment. And they are always very reluctant, I think, to give over data to a lot of the companies that want to use it for whether it's farm management system or training AI models. But if they know that they're going to get at least an equal amount of value back in return for giving that data over, then I think it's worth it to them. But, farming is their livelihood. And so that's why I think they have a reason to be skeptical of just turning over all this information about their livelihood to third parties unless there's that trust there.
I think that's a good point because, my feeling is that is the toughest small business in the whole spectrum of enterprise to run, inherently low margin in an increasingly concentrated industry. So any leg up they can get, they need it. And ROI may be the best way to measure that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our ranking member for this hearing. Dr. Earles, in your testimony, you discussed research into how farms and workers can utilize AI technologies to monitor livestock health, provide nutrients, predict climate, and control irrigation. Yes or no, is there a workforce ready to fully develop and operate these technologies so that farms across the nation can fully benefit?
Thank you. I think it's a great question. Again, it really depends on which crop we're probably talking about, but across the board, I would say that the workforce is probably not as there in specialty crops, for example, as it may be where we have much more manual labor. And so there's a lot more difficult types of tasks humans are doing. I think maybe we're closer on the front where we already have major penetration of mechanization. So in some of the row crops and things like that, where maybe there's less manual labor, I think that's probably the biggest differentiator in my mind of what drives readiness for the workforce.
I appreciate that. And Madam Chair, I think that's just a reminder that the committee not lose sight of the human component here as well as this conversation continues to grow. Dr. Earles, California has a large Spanish-speaking population, as does New Mexico. Are efforts being made to make AI-enabled agricultural technologies easy to use by non-English speakers?
Yeah, I think I'll speak from an example in this case. I think if someone's not doing this, then the technology is not going to penetrate the market. And so what I've seen...
Would you repeat that?
Yeah, I think if there's not an effort to make Spanish first or at least bilingual in these tools, especially in specialty crops where we have predominantly Spanish-speaking workers, then the tools are unlikely to succeed. And I've seen this firsthand in grape and wine industry where people building tools internally are Spanish mode first, right? And so, yeah, I think it's a...
Appreciate it. Dr. Hindman, would you agree with that?
I would.
Is Deere doing it?
We do, from an operations perspective, in all of our equipment, the ability to operate the equipment exists in multiple language, Spanish being one of them.
To operate. What about the AI component of all the smart stuff you all build into your tractors and farm equipment?
What we build into the tractors to this point has been largely visual. It's machine learning image recognition, so it's language agnostic in a sense.
I appreciate that. I look forward to learning more about that. Mr. Krishnan, your firm helps identify and develop AI technologies in the agricultural sector. How can companies like yours work with Congress and other government agencies to ensure that full diversity of American farmers and farm workers have a say in the development and deployment of AI agricultural technologies?
I think it's a really important question. I think to feed our global population, we need to create paths for all that want to farm, including a new generation of farmers and those that have been historically excluded from farming. I think our hope is AI can improve and democratize access to information, networks, and knowledge, and create a more level playing field. In order to do that, you need to have smart policy and partnership with the private sector.
I appreciate that very much. Dr. Hindman, there's been several conversations, questions around broadband connectivity and the importance of access, especially along the last acre, which I'm proud to be working on with Senator Fisher, talking about last acre connectivity. The idea here is to expand network connectivity across farmland and ranch land to ensure our rural communities and smaller farms can benefit from the emerging technologies. You have deployed precision agricultural technology, Deere has, that allows for plant-level management. Now, yes or no, does every rural community in America have access to the wireless networks needed to support that level of precision ag?
It does not.
And how important is it to expand connectivity to allow that to occur?
Ultimately important.
I appreciate that. And Madam Chair, this is a question that I know many of us have been asking and pursuing, especially those of us that represent more rural areas and more rural communities. With the commitments that were made with the bipartisan infrastructure bill with broadband, there was a commitment made that everyone was going to get connected. All of it was going to happen. But as a former utility commissioner, I pay attention to the filings at the FCC. And there's several of those companies that have been submitting those filings. One of them, I think, used an adage of, well, what about someone that lives down a long dirt road? What if it's too expensive to connect them? I thought that was the idea of the bill. I live down a long dirt road. I'm sure a few of us do. And it's just one of those reminders that if we're going to live up to the promise, especially in this particular space of AI to help food production, improve profits for farmers and producers across the country, that they need to have that simple technology that takes advantage of spectrum to be able to utilize these tools. So I hope that that's something else that we can impress upon. And then Dr. Hindman, with Deere, and I appreciate your response on the threat actors having access to data. Now, my question is, does Deere sell the data that they collect? Do they profit? Do they use a third party? Or does Deere keep that information just to themselves for their own product improvement?
We do not sell it. We're approached routinely by others who would like access to it. Our response is you have to go get approval from every farmer who has data that you're interested in.
I want to thank you for that. I know that that's a tough decision, but especially as you're protecting the intellectual property, behavior, whatever it may be, or the confidence with those users as well. So I just want to thank Deere for that and for your response, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Lujan. And let me just say that they used to say that it was too expensive to collect the farmer, put the farmer at the end of the road into telephone or electricity, and somehow we managed to do that. And so I couldn't agree with you more. Senator Thune.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just as a follow-up to Senator Lujan's comments on some of these, there are tens of billions of dollars available. And yet I met last week or the week before with our independent telephone co-ops in South Dakota, and not a single one was applying for any of that money. Partly because of all the regulations and red tape and requirements that have been attached to it. You have to meet certain, you got to hire certain types of people. The unions had their say in that, and we're a right-to-work state. We don't have that kind of workforce. And then, of course, there's all the climate requirements you have to prove. But yes, there are a lot of places in South Dakota, like the state that you represent, New Mexico, that desperately need that connectivity. And there are companies that are willing to invest and put money into it, but that to me was pretty striking, that not a single one of them was going to apply for that funding because it just didn't make sense for them economically. Let me come back, and I'm going to try and combine several questions here into one, Dr. Griffiths. I think it's really important, and there's a bipartisan bill that I'm working on that's focused on putting the right guardrails in place for the highest impact AI systems while also at the same time allowing for innovation. I think that's an important balance we have to strike. But I believe it's important as we think about that, that we highlight, we keep the innovation there, but we also know that there are riskier applications that are going to need a little bit of at least some amount of guardrails around it. So could you give a few examples of, and you mentioned this in your testimony, how new AI systems and tools are being used, to benefit agriculture. Secondly, what some of those risks are and why Congress needs to establish at least a light touch approach with respect to guardrails for AI deployment. And then you also mentioned in the threat of unfriendly nations asserting themselves into U.S. agriculture, and maybe touch briefly why it's important for the U.S. to lead in innovation on artificial intelligence to stay ahead of some of those unfriendly nations that are also trying to deploy it in ways that would perhaps be detrimental to us.
Thank you, Senator, for the complex question. Well, first of all, in terms of how AI is being used, we've talked a lot about that today. Precision agriculture, or precision farming, precision ranching is being incorporated to improve yield, cut down on data processing, and inform better farming practices. Examples include autonomous farming, the use of self-driving tractors, robots for crop inspection, and crop harvesting. Sorry, I am not an agricultural specialist, so I'm learning the vocabulary of agriculture. And autonomous systems used for spraying, etc. And a number of agricultural startups are leveraging the power of data to use AI to better inform practice. And I do believe that with some of recent developments in artificial intelligence technologies, the cost of entry is lowering. Not so much for the large data to train AI systems, but then once you've got the AI system available, you can apply it to your own environment at a much lower expense. I think there are a lot of things that we can do there's the individual field and the individual herd, if you like, that you can manage, but now you can go up a level and talk about how do you optimize the use of land, how do you optimize, we've talked about soil health and things of that kind. All of those are better informed by AI. In terms of establishing guardrails, I do believe very strongly in a lighter touch than heavy-duty regulation, because the moment regulation gets too much, innovation shrinks naturally. And the United States has always had a lighter touch on regulation than other parts of the world, particularly, for example, Europe, which has its AI framework. So I think it's important that we ensure that innovation can occur, but at the same time that we can have these guardrails to help mitigate risks. And I know the beginnings of this have already started with companies' volunteering efforts to make sure that they're appropriately appropriately secure, and hopefully that will continue, and then hopefully the Senate and the House will begin to put some of these lighter guardrails in place. I do think under-regulation would put the industry and the public at risk, so it is that nuanced balance between how much regulation is sufficient. So involving the agricultural producers and providers and technologists in the conversation, I think, is going to be very important. And then in terms of unfriendly nations, we do get concerned. That tends to be the high end of cybersecurity that I worry about on a regular basis, keeps me up at night. The United States has a lead in artificial intelligence. It has the lead in the high-end research activities. It has the advantage in the high-end chips that are a piece of the infrastructure needed to do high-end AI research. Some other countries are very interested in this, some because they want to use it for good, others because they don't wish us well. And I do think that, that the United States needs to stay in a lead role. And then we might see unfriendly countries, or let's say less friendly countries, perhaps they will become fast followers of whatever we produce. So whatever we produce, they're going to take up as quickly as they can and mimic and deploy on their own. But I do think it's important to maintain that research edge. It's what I believe has kept the United States in the lead for many, many decades. And I think it's important that investing in research in AI applications across multiple sectors is going to be very important. But we're really talking about one of the 15 critical infrastructures in the United States. Agriculture is a critical infrastructure. It came quite late to the area of cybersecurity, if I might say. I think 2015, we finally saw the first USDA report on that. And I think it's important to bring the agricultural sector into this world very, very quickly to advance the benefits of AI, which is moving very, very quickly and is going to need the various infrastructures that exist, including 5G, and at the same time, making sure we protect that infrastructure so the United States can stay 1 or 2 generations ahead of much of the rest of the world. It's the only way we're going to be able to move forward.
It's been remarkable just the progress we've already made in precision agriculture and what that's done on yields and just productivity in our country and how that's improved the bottom lines of agriculture, but also, as I mentioned earlier, makes us more competitive globally. Very quickly here, I see Senator Hoeven here. Let me ask Mr. Hindman, when we think about precision ag technologies and how they're utilized, how important is it that we, as policymakers, take a tech-neutral approach with respect to broadband deployment?
I think it's very important. I think the reality is to connect the last acre requires a different solution than to connect the last household. And in precision agriculture, it's that last acre that's important.
Okay, thank you. My time's expired, Madam Chair. I might submit some questions for the record, but thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Senator Fisher, I almost didn't see you over there. So Senator Fisher is next. So, and then Senator Hoeven. That was very courteous.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses today. Appreciate you being here. I'm glad to see this hearing today on how we can leverage technology to help our producers. Farmers and ranchers have been using precision agriculture technology to improve yields, reduce inputs, and optimize water usage. But there are more ways that we can boost access to these tools right now. I've written several bills that focus on expanding access to advanced technologies and ensuring farmers and ranchers can fully utilize the benefits of precision ag technology. My Precision Ag Loan Program would provide dedicated financing for precision ag technologies. My Precise Act would leverage existing conservation programs to increase access to precision ag technologies. And my Last Acre Act would expand network connectivity across farm and ranch land so these technologies can work reliably in the field. These bills have received broad stakeholder support. I appreciate the love this panel has shown these bills today, and I thank many of my colleagues here on this committee who have joined me as co-sponsors on those bills. Just last week, the joint FCC-USDA Precision Ag Connectivity Task Force voted to include both the PAL Act and the Last Acre Act as part of their final recommendations. We know that precision ag technologies give producers the ability to monitor and decrease their use of inputs like fertilizer and water, while still producing safe, high-quality crops. For example, precision agriculture's ability to optimize water usage is enormously important, particularly for our western states. Nebraska, for example, has 8.6 million acres of irrigated cropland, the most in the whole United States. Dr. Griffiths, in your written testimony, you described some of the benefits of precision agriculture. And would you please expand on the economic and environmental benefits that can be gained through the use of precision ag technologies?
Yes, thank you. Basically, the technologies allow much more specific information to be provided to the farmer or the rancher. As a result, they can use their resources sparingly, only when and where needed. So that's basically why costs are reduced. We can also, AI can allow us to identify and develop plants that can be harvested more frequently, so that you could actually potentially have 2 crops per year rather than 1. I know there's a lot of research on the bio side of agriculture that's looking at how to develop these new crops and products, and new things that you can grow, excuse me.
Right.
Same thing in animals, where we're doing that kind of research as well. But basically, that's what AI allows us to do, be more precise and specific.
Thank you. Despite the benefits that we've discussed here today, producers continue to face challenges adopting new precision ag technologies, and that's mostly due to the high costs and the lack of connectivity in rural areas. So, Mr. Hindman, I appreciate your testimony supporting the inclusion of my precision ag package in the Farm Bill. As a technology developer, can you explain some of the financial challenges facing producers in adopting these advanced technologies? And then secondly, even if producers can acquire the technology, what barriers prevent them from being able to fully leverage the precision ag technologies on their own farm?
Sure. Yeah, the technologies that we're talking about, graphical processing units, cameras, et cetera, are expensive technologies to start with. So I think the first barrier is that initial cost of the technology, and that's a barrier to entry for some growers at some sizes into the market, which is, I think, why it's important for these new-to-world type of technologies for us to not just work on the technology development, but the business model that accompanies it, right? We can shift the business model to make it more amenable to smaller farmers and pay-for-use type of mechanisms, those sorts of things. So the business model I would expect to shift over time as well. Your second question, Senator, is a connectivity question, pure and simple. There are fundamentally technologies and an increasing number of them that will be in the marketplace. There are in the marketplace today and will be in the marketplace in the future that are connectivity dependent. Connectivity ubiquitously throughout whatever the field is that the farmer happens to be using. And
not just building to building. To be able to connect there, we've got to be able to look again at that last acre if we're truly going to make a difference.
Household-based, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Fisher. And I just want to thank you for all your work in this area. And Senator Bozeman, we were just talking about the importance of having your work become part of what we're doing in the Farm Bill. So thank you very much. Senator Hoeven.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thanks to you and the ranking member for calling this meeting today. Appreciate it very much. And thanks to all of our witnesses. Senator Klobuchar and I have introduced bipartisan legislation to increase the loan limits, modernize the loan limits for the Farm Service Agency farm loan programs. We did that before the last Farm Bill and made that part of the Farm Bill. We're looking to do that again. Do all of you agree that we need to modernize those lending programs, increasing the loan limits, which would include not only the direct loans but also the guarantees and subordinations? And so I'd welcome comments from any and all of you, unless they're in the negative.
I'll be in the very positive. So thank you, Senator, for your question. I think particularly in the topic of AI and ag tech, as agriculture goes from data poor to data rich, is not just about sensors and Internet of Things and getting the farm super connected. I think we can use that data to provide new risk and lending solutions to farmers, particularly as the U.S. business model goes from more rented acres as opposed to owned acres, and I think it's really important.
Anybody disagree with that? Anybody want to add to it? Is there anything specific you want to see in these lending programs?
I think just allowing for private sector involvement. FinTech has gone to small business, has gone to many other parts of our economy, consumer, but has not yet gone to agriculture. And there's a really interesting opportunity to provide more competition in products and services from FinTech overall to the agriculture sector.
And would you also agree that it's very important for our beginning farmers that we have these programs available and that they're adequate to meet the needs?
They provide a ladder to acquire working capital, to acquire farm, and to bring a new generation of farmers into the system.
Right, because we need to bring in young people, and the capital barriers are significant with modern agriculture. You would agree with that?
Absolutely.
And then in North Dakota, we have a project called Grand Farm, which is conceptually to be an autonomous farm where we're using AI and precision ag and all these incredible developments to develop a farm that's highly automated. In essence, we say autonomous, although of course it would never be fully, but really to be on the cutting edge of the development of precision ag. John Deere's involved, as are many other Microsoft. Many leading companies are involved in this incredible effort. Tell me, from each of your perspective, how do you think you can bring resources to bear to help these kinds of efforts like Grand Farm? And since John Deere Controls has a major development office in Fargo, maybe you would start.
Sure. I think it's important. Grand Farm is a really good example of painting a picture of the future of what agriculture can be, and to do it in a location that allows growers to see it sort of in their own backyard. So I think that's incredibly important. It also provides an ecosystem where multiple entities, public, private, can collaborate on solutions within the context of a public farm that I think paints an interesting and compelling picture for the future.
Who else? What other ideas can you bring, either from higher ed or from the business world?
I think it's a great idea to actually demonstrate what can be done. I think that will allow for sort of people to understand that it's available and have some understanding of how it works and what it costs. We've had a slightly different approach, mainly because we don't have a Grand Farm initiative, but we have used virtual reality to demonstrate what that kind of precision agriculture could do. So it's on a somewhat limited basis, but we are able to bring people in and demonstrate this is, you could be driving this autonomous, driving an autonomous vehicle. You could be riding in an autonomous vehicle. It can be doing all these things for you in the future and give them a sense of it that way.
Dr. Griffiths, what's the most important thing that we can include in NIFA funding this year?
I think many of the things we've talked about, support for ongoing research and development, loans to farmers so that they can really get up and running and reduce the cost of entry for those small independent farms.
But is there anything we should do in terms of the NIFA funding that you would recommend that could make it even more effective? I mean, other than, I'm sure, increasing the dollars, but are there recommendations you have regarding NIFA specifically? Or anyone else?
I might add one thing to it. So in the NIFA funding, one interesting piece to me is that across all of the different topics that you'll see within NIFA, which is a lot, right, within AFRI, for example, there is an opportunity for AI to be embedded in almost every one of those. And so I think there's a question of how it's a cross-cutting technology, and so how we can make it a cross-cutting type of opportunity, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and as the chairman said, adding AI to the language in the right way, both to give you the authorities, but also so that we're careful in its development. I would echo her thoughts on that. So again, thanks to all of you. Thanks, Madam Chair and the ranking member.
Thank you so much. This has really been a terrific discussion, very helpful. And we have lots more to do. We look forward to working with you going forward. But this is really important to our work in supporting future innovations. We know that agriculture is all about innovation, and that's how our farmers have been able to effectively feed the world with the most abundant, lowest cost, safest food supply in the world, which is what we all have. So we've covered a lot of ground today. It's our responsibility on the committee to ensure that America continues to lead the world in agricultural innovation. I know that Senator Bozeman joins me in strongly supporting that effort to get that done. So look forward to working with every member of the committee as we draft a strong bipartisan farm bill. This has been very helpful to us today. The record will remain open for 5 business days, and the hearing is adjourned. Good morning. Okay.